Oh my God, did you hear about the new Thor movie coming out? I'm so excited.
Right? Yeah, it's
right.
So good.
The first one was amazing.
Yeah.
In this first one, it strikes me really that everybody got up from the table, and it was sad that even nobody was able to stand up for the young man that comes and sits down, and no one felt that they could stand up and stick up for this boy. And everyone felt that this was wrong behavior, but not a smaller percentage felt that it was something they would report. So I'd be curious if anyone would go back to this boy and say, that they felt that it was wrong that everyone stood up. So I found that interesting that people know that this was wrong, but no one really stood up and helped this young man.
And then I told him, dude, that's an avocado. Come on.
Hey, Susie, you look hot today.
I like those pants, Susie.
Shut up!
And this one's an interesting one. I think that for the most part, an overall percentage of kids realize that this is inappropriate, but there's still nearly 20% thought that this was just normal teenage behavior. But actually, it is sexual harassment, what those boys did, and they think that they were funny by doing it. But it is technically sexual harassment, the way that they were talking to her, and it made her feel uncomfortable. And it is behavior that would be inappropriate and should be reported, but a smaller percentage felt that it should be reported, but nearly 50% recognized that the behavior was inappropriate.
Dude, you see this picture? That's I think Odie, dude. One of the
one sec, I gotta check the Snapchat.
Alright, hold on.
Oh wait, you know what? You should send that text. Send it.
Oh, okay.
I'm
signing.
That's hilarious. That one.
Dude, yeah, right? That's good, dude.
That's great.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I don't know.
Dude, you sent that other text about how she was with John this weekend.
Alright.
But last weekend she was with Brad. I don't know what that's all about.
Oh, jeez, that one's definitely going.
Oh, dude, you should send that picture. You should send that picture to the whole school.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Alright.
Tell her she's ugly. She's like so ugly.
Why is she even our friends?
Don't know. Why don't you ask her that? Ask her why anybody hangs out with her.
I will, honestly.
Look at her hair.
I mean, honestly, look at that shirt. It's like so ugly on her.
Yeah.
It makes her look fat.
Yeah. It does. Ugh. People these days.
Honestly.
So I found the results to these extremely interesting. So for the cyber etiquette and the Facebook, on both of these they had almost the identical percentage results. There were only close to 3% and 2% that felt that this was normal teenage behavior, and 72% and 70% of students felt that this was something that needed to be reported. And I found it really interesting that this being a social media issue, that students felt very strongly that this needed to be reported to an adult. Yet the other scenarios, even though kids felt that they were wrong doing it, that they didn't feel that it needed to be reported. But in the situation with social media, that's an extremely high percentage of students that felt that this needed to be reported. And I commend students that they wanted it reported, but I find it interesting that the social media has taken it has such a huge impact these days that students do feel strong enough that they would report something like this, but yet situations that are more everyday and physical in nature that you're not necessarily jumping to report, but the social media students. So I found that extremely interesting.
We got nominated for homecoming team, right? Yeah, probably.
Yo, hey, check.
Hey, freshman, come here.
Come on, man. Oh, what's up, yeah?
Hey, we need to go get us some pops down in the caf.
Yeah, dude, make it 2 pops, man. Make it 2.
When we were freshmen, we had to go get pop for our seniors too.
Yeah, you know. So hey, why don't you run down there and get us some pops?
Yeah, let's
all right?
go. Come on.
Make it quick.
Come on, make it quick. I'm thirsty.
Freshman, dude. I swear. Gosh.
Within bullying, there's hazing, and we've, touched upon hazing and how that's inappropriate, and that is an act of bullying as well. I think that everybody recognizes that it's wrong. Only 5% felt that this was normal behavior. So it's interesting again. So 50% agreed that, nearly 50% agreed that it's bad behavior, yet only about 45% felt that it was something they'd report. So I find it interesting, again, these actions that are in physical state, students are less likely to actually report these things. And, we just were discussing how social media, yet it's much easier to seem to report social media. And I don't know if that's that sense that it's more, you're more anonymous in reporting something that's social media. So this is something I'm fascinated as we go on through these little scenarios here.
Hey, Emily. Yeah? Wanna know what I heard? What did you hear? I heard that you've been messaging my boyfriend and texting him on Facebook. And if I find out or hear anything like that again, I will make your life miserable until the day you die.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've known him way longer than you, and he's my best friend.
I don't care. You don't do that to someone else when they are dating someone. Whatever.
The girl drama with the boyfriends. This is a many years universal this going on, and a very only 28% felt that this is something that they report. And the one that worries me about this is that there's threatening behavior, and any kind of threatening behavior, this really should be reported. No one should feel threatened. So I found it interesting that a small percentage, that although a high percentage, 57% recognize that this is inappropriate, bad behavior, shouldn't occur, but only 28% felt that they would report this. And I think this is something that is important that students would report, because it is threatening behavior, and someone that would be the victim in this, it could be a scary situation. So I think recognizing that an adult should be brought into the situation is important.
Nice shirt, dude.
Hey, what's wrong with my shirt?
Dude, it's a pink shirt. Who has a pink shirt nowadays?
Who doesn't have a pink shirt? Look at you. I mean, gym class has been over for like 3 hours.
Hey, you know what? Gym class is my favorite class.
Hey,
look
at these shades, bro.
Hey, you talk about my shades, dog? These are drifty. These are drifty, man. Stick drifty.
Yeah, whatever.
What about his boat shoes? I mean, those are old man shoes. Who wears old man shoes?
Yo, hey, man, hey, no. Hey, that's bullying, dude. Don't say that.
Yeah, and in this scenario, the boys will be boys, normal teenage behavior. I think, yes, a lot of this is normal behavior, but I think what kids need to think about is people's feelings and putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. And even though this seems like it's normal behavior, and obviously it isn't necessarily something you'd report to an adult, it's being conscious of people's feelings, and even though in that moment it seems like it's just silly behavior, but really think about how somebody else's feelings, that even though it's not outright bullying, that somebody's feelings and how they internalize it could actually really be damaging and affecting them a lot more than you would actually think. So just thinking about how even common joking around, making fun of someone's culture, or how they're dressed, and even though you think you're being silly, how that may internally affect someone. So being thoughtful of that.
So you're going?
Yeah.
What's up, big guy?
Yep. I hate her.
This one was like...
So,
Maybe that. Oh. Okay. Sorry for bothering you.
Jeez. Alright.
It's all good.
Is it all good? Doesn't seem like it.
So here's what you do.
Thanks for taking my spot.
So I'm not surprised that, you know, nearly all students felt that this was inappropriate behavior. And in this scenario, because there was actual physical contact, 61% felt that this was something they would report. And I'm glad to see that students recognize that this was something they would report to a dean or a teacher. Again, going back to some of those earlier scenarios where they didn't feel necessarily that they would report it to an adult, where they probably should still report it, it's interesting how, because that physical component was in there, then that makes it more urgent. And students do feel like that bullying is, because that physical component comes in, that it's more urgent, and then they do feel that they would report it to an adult. Which again, I commend students that they would feel that it would need to be reported. And you know, nearly 95% of students felt that this is totally inappropriate. You do not bully people and physically abuse people. So, you know, I commend that, and that students recognize that it's something you would bring an adult in this situation.
Whatever, she's a bully anyways, I don't like her.
You know, this kind of thing happens high school. This kind of thing happens high school. Don't worry about it. It's
Yeah,
fine.
it always happens. Get over it.
Not a big deal.
I just won't be left alone there.
That behavior, like, this isn't acceptable.
You know what? You're right. That's just not right. You know what? Me and Devin, you know, we'll talk to a counselor. Yeah, we'll help you out. That's not right.
Thank you.
So the last two, number 9 and 10, are giving two different types of advice. And the first one was just kind of saying like, oh, you know what, these things happen, and kind of wishy-washy advice. And the second one is direct advice on that, yes, you need to report this, we'll go with you to your counselor, we'll support you. I found it, you know, very interesting. There was kind of mixed feelings about the wishy-washy advice, and some people felt it was good advice, some said that it's not good advice, but that's just kind of how you survive high school. Others felt that it was bad advice. And yet the advice saying, yes, we'll help you and you should go report it, you know, 91% felt that that was good advice. And I think that the second scenario was a great way of handling the situation, and it was nice to see that most students felt that that's how you should tackle that situation. That kind of wishy-washy scenario, I found it interesting that some people actually felt that that was a good way of handling it. I think that in any situation where there's any kind of physical contact or harm, there's nothing appropriate about it. And moving forward, you know, with students, if you have any scenario where any of your friends or you witness someone being physically harmed in any way, that the only answer is that it gets reported. So very interesting information that was, you know, gathered from this video presentation. So overall, I think students, you need to know that there's great supports in the school between your counselors, social workers, psychologists, the teachers, the deans, the hall monitors, security officers. There's so many people here to support you. No one should ever feel unsafe in this school. We have so many support systems here. And if it's ever a question that something doesn't feel appropriate, however big or small it is, there's not a right or wrong answer to that. If a situation doesn't feel right, then you should report it. So, you know, in a lot of these scenarios, kids said that, you know, they felt it was inappropriate, but they wouldn't necessarily report it. There's never any harm in reporting something. You know, err on the side of caution. If you feel that a situation doesn't feel right, go talk to an adult in this building. We're here to support you. And, you know, again, I found it really fascinating that when it came to social media, you all were on top of it. You knew that it was inappropriate and you were going to go right away and report something with social media. Use that same intuition when a situation occurs in the school and publicly there's kids that feel uncomfortable or something's going on that doesn't feel right, and go to an adult in the school.